When I was 4 years old, I made my first dress. My mom taught me how to sew on a small sewing machine, and I made a doll dress for my favorite doll. Since then, I've learned how to make clothing, blankets, and I even made my own wedding dress. Sustainable, slow fashion like this was the norm for thousands of years. However, in the past century, the change has been towards ready-to-wear, factory-made garments. Now, sustainability in fashion is very important. It's important for us to think about the impact of our actions on our environment, such as our water systems, the energy we use, and even the rights and conditions of our workers. Today, I would like to have you think a little bit about what you did this morning. Chances are, even though we're in pandemic, we all got dressed. Now, what did you decide? Why did you decide to wear what you wore today? Was it because of the weather? Was it because of the activities that you would be doing today? Now, did any of you think about the impact of the environment because of the clothing that you chose? Probably not, right? Today, I'd like to introduce you to the idea of sustainable fashion. I'd like to talk about the difference between sustainable fashion and fast fashion. I'd like to talk about why sustainable fashion is important, and I'd like to give you some suggestions on how you can be more sustainable with your own clothing. The Encyclopedia Britannica states in 2020 that sustainability in fashion protects the environment and the rights of workers. Now, this is differing from the Gale Opposing Viewpoints online collection of 2020 that states that fast fashion refers to a business model that responds quickly to changing trends. What this means is that slow, sustainable fashion is made in slower and less collections throughout the year, and is thought, and they think about the types of implications that are happening with the clothing and the entire life cycle of the clothing. Fast fashion is more concerned with the trends themselves. Some companies create up to 52 trends per year. That's up to a trend a week. Now, why is this important to me? And what do I do with the clothing that we already own? So let's think for a minute about a cotton t-shirt. In 2006, in an article on the National Wildlife Federation website, Doreen Kuby says that in the year 2000, over a handful of fertilizer was used in the creation of each conventional cotton t-shirt. So think about the implications of the amount of fertilizers that have run off into our water systems, which can potentially create problems in future growing, and also for people's consumption of water and the animals that live in the water. However, an organic t-shirt has no synthetic pesticides or fertilizers. Now, let's think a little bit about the tag in your t-shirt. The t-shirt is going to say what type of fabric it is, of course, but it's also going to tell you where it was made. How many of your t-shirts were made in the United States? Chances are that your t-shirt company has its headquarters in the United States, but then has its operations in developing regions where the workers' rights are either not even existent or are not enforced. So what can I do about it? Number one, you can wear your clothes for longer. You can repair your clothing with a few fast hand stitches, or replace a button or add a patch, or you can actually take it to someone to have it repaired if it's outside of your capability. You can also alter clothing to make a new garment. And my favorite is to have clothing tailored to fit so that I'm not wasting a piece of clothing because I don't like how it fits my body. Secondly, you can reuse clothing. You can shop at a thrift store to reuse or to alter your clothing. You can ask a friend if they want to trade for clothing that either of you aren't wearing anymore. Or you can do some crafting, like I've even made a rag rug out of strips of old t-shirts. Thirdly, it's important to think about buying less clothing per year. The best way to extend the life of the clothing that you already own is by wearing it more often. Helena Horton from The Telegraph says that renting is a viable option in 2019 to buying new fast fashion. So what fast fashion is, you may have heard about Rent the Runway or Les Tote or some of these companies. They allow you to rent a piece of clothing that you can send back, and then in turn, dozens of other people can wear this piece of clothing. That allows you to not shop for fast fashion that you're going to wear 1 or 2 times and then dispose of. Now, how do you feel about your clothing? Are you going to make different choices? Let's review a little bit about what we talked about today. First, we defined fast fashion and sustainable fashion. Then we talked about some points on why sustainable fashion is important. And finally, I gave you some choices on ways that you can make a better fashion footprint for yourself. Now, my challenge to you is to take this information and move forward with it in your fashion life. Save a piece of clothing by repairing it. Rent or thrift your next article of clothing. And the next time you're feeling like you need something to do, don't go to the mall. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a dress to mend.